Hey, Shalom Aleichem, was machst du? What's going on, friends? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nunches, Daf 58 of Masechta Yoma. Daf 58 talks about mixing the blood of the goat and of the cow. Exciting stuff. Putting a vessel in a vessel. Now that sounds fun. We get to a new mishna. That's always fun. And the new Mishnah talks about applying the blood to the Mizbeach HaPnimi, to the Mizbeach HaKtoris, after the Kohen Gadol has applied the blood in the Kodesh Kodashim and by the Paroches, now he applies the blood as well to the Mizbeach HaKtoris. Chevre, let's get started. We're on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis, about 8 lines or so from the bottom at the 2 dots. Ira da mapar lesochta masoyer. So the Kohen Gadol then mixes, he pours the blood of the cow, right, the kli that has the blood of the cow, he pours it into the kli that has the blood of the goat. Tanan. Commando Amar Ma'arvin Likronis. Okay, so the Mishnah is like the Mandamu who says that you would, that when you apply the blood to the Mizbach HaKtoris, you would mix the blood of the goat and of the cow together. The Idmar, because it was stated. Rabbi Yosha Rabbi Yonasan. So Machlokas Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. It's interesting that it says the Idmar, because Idmar is usually Amoraim, but then we also then have a Brisa where there's the same Machlokas between Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. Who were Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan? Were they Tanoim? Were they Amoraim? Maybe they were like right on the cusp, maybe. Anyways, so the Idmar Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. There's machlokas between Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonasan. Charama ma'arvin v'charama ei ma'arvin. So nice clean machlokas. One mandamer is that you mix together the blood of the goat and the cow. The other mandamer is you don't. This time Rabbi Yosha udama ma'arvin. So let's say that it must be that Rabbi Yosha is the one who says that you mix together the blood of the cow and the goat. Amar afagavdelo ksiv yachtov kimandich ksiv yachtov dami. Wah. Because Rabbi Yosha's opinion is that even when it doesn't say yachdav together, it's as though it says it together. We still treat it as it's the same outcome as though it were to say it together. What in the world does that mean? It means that the pasuk says ish asher yikal esav v'es imo. That Rashi explains. It's Gemara in Sanhedrin. That it says ish asher yikal esav v'es imo. If you have a fellow who curses his father and his mother. Now it doesn't say over there yachdav together. But it says Rabbi Yosha that even though it doesn't say Dafka curse them together, it still nonetheless means that he has to curse both of them. So we see that Rabbi Yosha's opinion is that even when it doesn't explicitly say that you have to do both, nonetheless it still does mean together. By cursing your parents, it means you have to curse both of them according to Rabbi Yosha. So also by the blood, when the pasuk says, what does the pasuk say over here by the blood? Who could tell me what it says? Because I don't seem to be able to find it. Wait, seriously, what does it say by the blood? What in the world does it say by the blood? No. No. There it is. Boom. That he takes from the blood of the cow and of the goat. So it doesn't say necessarily together, but we want to argue that Rabbi Yosha's opinion would be that, well, if it says the blood of the cow and the blood of the goat in the same sentence, so it means together. Very good. So Testaim the Rabbi Yosha udam ma'arvin, the mafagad looks of yachtav commandich of yachtav dami. So let's say that Rabbi Yosha is the one who says that we mix together the blood of the goat and the cow, because he says by cursing one's parents, even though it doesn't specifically say that you have to curse both of them together, Rabbi Yoshia says that nonetheless it would apply to cursing your parents together, and therefore here also by the blood, the assumption is that Rabbi Yoshia would be of the opinion that you would mix together the blood of the goat and the cow. Weiter. Afilu tema Rabbi Yonasanu. The Gemara says, wait a second, I can argue that maybe Taka it's Rabbi Yonasan who says that you mix together the blood of the goat and the cow. Because shayni achad ichsev achas. Because after all, over here, in the context of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, it says v'chipra harna karnosav achas bashana. And therefore, because it says achas, so it means one. So it means that you're going to have the blood of the goat and the cow together. As Rashi points out, achas bashana v'lo shtayim. That you do this once a year, not twice. And because it's once a year, not twice, so you're going to mix together the blood and the goat, and you do this all once. The cow of the goat, and you do it once, you don't do it twice. Whereas if they would be separate, you'd have to do one for each. Very good. Nu Chaver, so what do you think? So we have nice clean machlokas between Rabbi Yosha and Rabbi Yonason. Do you mix together the blood of the cow and the goat? Don't you? Rabbi Yosha says yes. No. So one of them says yes, one of them says no. We want to argue that Rabbi Yoshia says that you mix them together based on what he says by cursing one's parents. And then we said, no, maybe you could argue that it's Rabbi Yonason, even though by cursing one's parents, he says that it wouldn't necessarily mean you have to curse both of them together. However, maybe you could argue that over here by the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur, it says achas b'shana v'lo shtayim, so maybe you'd say that maybe he's the one who says that you have to mix them together. Tanya d'lo kishinuyon. The Gemara says, well, we have a brisa that would argue against the notion of saying that Rabbi Yonason is the one who says that you mix them together. Let's see, because what does the brisa say? V'lokach midam hapar midam hasoyer, that the Kohen Gadol then takes from the blood of the cow and the blood of the goat. Sheyiyu me'orav and divrei Rabbi Yosha. Boom. Chavi, you heard that, right? The brisa says that Rabbi Yosha's opinion is that you mix together the blood of the cow and the goat. Chavi, there you have it. That's Rabbi Yosha's opinion, that you mix it together. Rabbi Yonason Omer, mizeh b'fnei atzmo, whereas Rabbi Yonason says that you'll take from the blood of the goat and the blood of the cow separately. Amle Rabbi Yosha. Now Rabbi Yosha, who of course says that you mix them together, says to Rabbi Yonason, v'alok v'anemar achas. No, it says achas b'shana, once a year, not twice a year. According to you, Rabbi Yonason, if you are taking from the blood of the cow and then from the blood of the goat, you're going to do it twice, l'maisa. Rabbi Yonason. So Rabbi Yonason responds to Rabbi Yosha, "V'aluk v'anemar midam apar midam asayir." So Rabbi Yonason responds is, yeah, but it says midam apar midam asayir separately. Im came lama nemar achas. But if that's the case, that it's separate, then why does it say one? Lo melchat say to you, achas v'lo shtayim midam apar, achas v'lo shtayim midam asayir. So Rabbi Yonason Musman, what it means is that once from the blood of the cow, once from the blood of the goat. But it does not mean, says Rabbi Yonason, that you would mix them together. Tani Idach, you have another brayse that says V'lokach midam apar midam asoyer, that you take from the blood of the cow and of the goat, shiyuma orav and zebozeh, that the taka have to be mixed together. Atomer shiyuma orav and zebozeh, oinu elam mizeh b'fnei asmo mizeh b'fnei asmo. For the Gemara, wait, does it really mean that they have to be mixed together? Maybe it means that you use them separately, that you apply them separately. Tamloma achas. So we say no, don't think of that, because the pasuk says achas once, and the Gans Geschäft is just going to be once. You're not going to do one for the goat, one for the cow. And says the Gemara in conclusion, V'istome Rabbi Yoshia. So there you have it. Here was a brisa, an anonymous brisa, and of course there is such a principle. Right, of course, Rabbi Yochanan's famous statement of halacha gestam mishna, that whenever you have an unattributed mishna, the halacha will be like that. So here, the Gemara wants to assume that because we have a stam brisa like Rabbi Yoshia, mistam the halacha is like him, that we mix together the blood of the cow and the goat. And now continues the Gemara, nosen es hamali barekon v'chule. So in explaining the Mishnah had said that the Kohen Gadol that mixes together because the Mishnah had said that you take the blood of the cow and you pour it into the blood of the goat, which means that now you have one kli that has the blood of the cow and the goat mixed together, and you have an empty vessel, right? The one that used to have the blood of the cow is now empty. So, Ba'amina Rabbi Barchama Rav Chizde, so Rabbi Barchama, who was Rav Chizde's son-in-law, of course, asked his father-in-law. I don't know if they were necessarily married at the time, but whatever. Rabbi Barchama asked Rav Chizde. Hiniach mizrak b'soch mizrak. So what if the Kohen No, so in general, kilu. Lav davka on Yom Kippur right now, right? What if in general, so Racham asked Rav Chizda, what if in general, a Kohen, right, he was doing Kabbalah Sadam, and he has to receive the blood in a vessel. Now, of course, we know from the end of Masechta Eruvin, all those Gemaras that with all those Mishnayos over there, one of them was talking about how you cannot have a chatzitza between your hand and the vessels in the Beis HaMikdash, which is why we talked about, I don't remember exactly the Maaseh, but the Mishnah, I think it said that maybe you could take off a bandage in order to do the Avodah on Shabbos and then put it back on, something like that, because of Ein Shvus B'Mikdash. Anyways, so we see that you have to be holding the Klei Sharis. So now, what if the Kohen, on a regular Kohen, regular day of the year, he took one Klei Sharis, one vessel, and put it in another vessel? So he's not holding the actual vessel, he's holding a vessel that's holding another vessel which is receiving the blood. So Rav Bacham asks Rav Chizda, so if a Kohen puts one vessel in another vessel and then receives the blood of the animal, min bimino chotzetz o eno chotzetz. So min bimino, when you have one item in another item that is the same thing, is that considered a chatzitza or not, right? So meaning, if he's holding a Klei Sharis, but it's lav davka, the same exact Klei Sharis that the blood is being received into, does that count as a chatzitza, or is it the same? The Maisa, I wrote a blog post on this once. Old school blog post, jQuery. People don't really use jQuery so much anymore. Although the Maisa, I wrote a shtickle jQuery. No, actually, I don't think I did. I feel like nowadays you're just gonna, if you're writing just regular vanilla JavaScript, mistably you'll just write the regular stuff. Once upon a time jQuery was useful, but now they have things like React and stuff, and so much more so much more geschmack. Kuponim. So you can find it on Medium if you're interested. So where were we? So we want to know if the Kohen is holding one kli and it's in another kli, is that going to be a chatzitza or not? You guys got the kasha? I hope so. So Rav Chizda responds, well, let's just look at our Mishnah over here. Well, the Mishnah, after all, says that he poured the blood of the cow into the blood of the goat. They're all mixed together. Then he takes the kli, and what Rav Chizda wants to understand the Mishnah as saying is that then he takes the kli that has both bloods in it and puts the full one into the now empty one. So now he's holding two vessels. So he's not technically holding the vessel that has all the blood in it at the time that he applies it to the Mizbeach Pnimi. My lav, Hoshev Mizok Mala L'soch Mizok Reikon. So Mistama, says Rav Chizda, what he's doing is that he's taking the full vessel and putting it in the empty vessel, and that seems to be acceptable. Lo. The Gemara says no. Ira Mizrak Mala L'soch Mizok Reikon. So the Gemara says no, that's not what it means. What the Mishnah means is that he pours the blood of the cow into the blood of the goat. Now they're all mixed together. And then he takes the mixture of cow blood and goat blood and pours it back into the empty vessel. Right? So Ir Mizrak L'soch Mala L'soch Mizrak Reikon. He took the now full vessel and poured it into the now empty vessel. And then the full vessel now becomes empty. Fine. And one says, wait, what's the point? Why? We already said that he takes the blood of the cow and pours it into the blood of the goat. What's accomplished by now pouring that into the empty vessel? My answer is, well, so you can mix them up really well. If you pour the cow blood into the goat blood and then pour the Gans mixture into the other vessel, so everything will get mixed up very, very well. Tashma coming here. Haya omed al gabe kli al gabe regel chaveru posel. So in a similar vein, just like there can't be any separation between what you're holding in the Beis HaMikdash, also you want to have your feet on the floor. Right? There shouldn't be anything separating between your feet and the feet of the Kohen Gadol, as we know from Masechet Shkom, they would walk around Borvis. And they would eat a lot of meat, so they would get sick. The Kohanim, anyways, so there couldn't be any separation between your feet or the floor. So it says Omer al Gabe, right, and the floor. So it says Omer al Gabe Kli. If a fellow was standing on a vessel, or al Gabe Regel Chavero, or he's standing on his friend's foot, puzzle. So we see that that's a situation of min bimino, kilu, a foot and a foot, and we're saying it's a chatzitza. So the Gemara says shani regel lo matzi mivatale. The Gemara says it's shtickle different because that's a foot. You can't really be mivatal your friend's foot. Ikidam, those who say hachi by mine. Those who say that this is what Rabbi Bar Chama was asking Rav Chizda, derech sheruz b'chach or derech sheruz b'chach, that if you're holding two vessels, is that considered a way of service? Tashmakom near the Tana Dever Bishmal started the Besmedrish of Bishmal as kol klei hasharis asher yisharsu bam bakodesh shnei kelim v'sheris achas. So this pasuk is in the context of putting away the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash, like the Aron and Shulchan and things like that, into their special carrying cases that they would have. And it says, as kol klei hasharis, all of the service vessels, asher yisharsu bam bakodesh. Right, so it says klei hasharis. Klei is plural, sharis is singular. So we want to say shnei kelim v'sheris echad, that even if you're holding on to two kelim, but it's still considered one service. So that would be acceptable. But Rabbi Bar Chama asked a question from Rav Chizda. Interesting. Rabbi Bar Chama asked Rav Chizda, what if you have a Kohen and he puts some, what was the word for it? I can't remember now, but he takes basically, there's like fibers around a palm tree, or palm branches, if you like. I'm not an expert, but I did Google it. Like, you can kind of scrape away like this fibrous material around like palm branches. So imagine like wool or something like that, like a woolly kind of thing. So what if you took this fibrous material and you put it into the klisharis, and then you did Kabbalah Saddam? Would that fibrous material, which is absorbent, would it be considered a chatzitza? Would it be considered a chatzitza? Min b'she'enu mino chotzet. So do we say, well, it's a foreign object in a klisharis, that's a problem? Oh, eno chotzet. Or do we say, no, it's not a chatzitza? Do we say that came the mechalchol lo chayetz? Or do we say that, look, maybe since it's absorbent, and it's just going to absorb the blood, you can kind of wring it out of the thing if you need to. So maybe it shouldn't be a chatzitza, or maybe it doesn't make a difference. So we're trying to figure out if you put up some kind of absorbent material into the klisharis when you do Kabbalah Saddam, is that a problem? Omrle. So Rav Chizda responds, Tanina. Oh, Tanisua, that's what I was looking for. He says it's a Mishnah. Zole v'holichat shemagia l'sfug. So this has to do with creating the meichatas for the paraduma, right? Of course, you take the red heifer, slaughter it, burn it, take its ashes, and then before you apply it to a fellow who's tameh, you would mix it with mayim chaim, with spring water. So that had to be done in el keli, right? Mayim chaim el keli, in a vessel. So let's say in that vessel that has the water that you're going to mix with the ashes, there's like a foreign substance, a sfug, some kind of a sponge. So it says zoleh v'holech ad shemageh l'sfug. So you can just use the water until you get to the sponge. So we see that the fact that the sponge is there doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. Just don't use the water in the sponge. So the Gemara says, that might not be a good proof because shiny mai the cliche, because water is particularly thin. Blood is thicker. So does that make blood more viscous or less viscous? What's viscous? Is viscous like thicker or thinner? I mean, obviously, Dennis, you would know the answer. Anybody else know the answer? I guess we'll find out. Those who say, actually, when it comes to blood, it could be acceptable because it's still I guess blood is viscous, right? I think are all liquids viscous? Just some are more than others? I don't know. Okay, I don't know about viscosity, right? Viscosity is like how you describe viscousness, right? Okay, so we say that blood maybe can actually work because even if it's thicker, it's still can absorbent. However, a kometz, right? When you take a fistful of flour from a mincha, then you take it and you put it in a klisharis. If in the klisharis there's some kind of foreign element, that would be a problem because flour is not going to get absorbed in anything, so that would be a problem. Okay, all right, very interesting shilas over there about different chatzitzas when it comes to klisharis. Very nice. Friends, and now we get to a new mishna. V'yotza el mizbeach asher lifnei Hashem. So then, after sprinkling the blood in front of the paroches, he then takes a few steps back and applies the blood to the mizbech haketores, the incense altar. So zeh mizbech hazav. This is the golden altar. Hischamchate v'yored. So then he began to apply the blood to the corners of the Mizbach HaZahav. Me'echan hu maskil. So where does he begin? Mikar mizrachis tzfonis. From the northeastern corner, tzfonis ma'iravis. Then he moves on to the northwestern corner, ma'iravis dromis, dromis mizrachis, and then followed by the southwest and southeastern corners respectively. Malkum shu maskil b'chatas hamizbeach hachitzon. Where he begins with the korban chatas on the outer mizbeach, the mizbeach hachitzon, which would be the southeast corner. Mishama yagomer hamizbeach hapnimi. That was the last corner that he would get to on the mizbeach hapnimi when applying the blood on Yom Kippur, on the mizbeach hazav. Rabbi Eliezer Omer says Rabbi Eliezer b'mkomo yomed. So as opposed to Tanna Kama, who says that he would walk around, circumambulate. I think Dennis said that was old school. I think I remember that word from when I was preparing for the SATs way back when. So whereas according to the Tanna Kama, the Kohen Gadol would walk around the Mizbeach when applying the blood. According to Rabbi Eliezer, he would stand in one place. Because I think the Gemara points out at some point, somebody points out, maybe Rashi points out, after all, the entire Mizbach Hazav was 1 amma by 1 amma squared. Keilu, each side was only 1 amma. Now, compare this with the Mizbeach HaChitzon, where each corner was an amma by an amma. Right? So we're not exactly talking about having to walk so far. So, says Rabbi Eliezer, b'mkomo ha'omid, the Kohen Gadol would stand in one spot, u'mechate, and he would apply the blood to the Mizbeach. V'akulon ha'inosim milamata lemala. And says Rabbi Eliezer that on all of the corners he would apply from in a down towards, in an upwards motion. Chutz mizo shayis lefanov, except for the one that was immediately in front of him, which I assume, well, we're going to see some machlokas, but yes, well, according to everybody, at least in the Gemara, that would either be the northeast or the southeast corner. For the one right directly in front of him, he would apply the blood from above below, because he's wearing, is he wearing, yeah, Mistami's still wearing all white. He hasn't changed, yeah. So he's wearing all white, and you don't want the blood to get on his sleeves. Now, if on the corner, at least that's right in front of him, so if he has his, the blood on his finger, and his finger is facing upwards, and he's dragging his hands upwards, well, blood is going to drip down his hand onto his white clothing, and we don't want that. So therefore, he would apply the blood in a downward motion so that the blood is going away from his body. So now, according to Rabbi Eliezer, well, for all of the other corners, now he's not walking to the other corners, he's just reaching over towards the other corners. So for there, he could apply from the bottom up because he's reaching to corners that are kind of further from him. But on the corner that's immediately in front of him, if he applies from the down up, then it'll drip down his arm and get on his clothing. So therefore, on that one, he applies from up down. Now, according to the Tanna Kama, that he walks around the Mizbeach, so then for each corner, he's going to apply from top down. Said it, yes. so that it doesn't get on his clothing. He's al tarish mizbeach sheva paimim, and then he sprinkles on the mizbeach 7 times, and the Gemara is going to explain what that means. Al tarish mizbeach v'shiori adam hayeshofech ayisod maravish mizbeach achitzon, and then the leftover blood. After all the applications of blood in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Paroches, and now the Mizbach Hazav, whatever is left over, he goes out to the Azara, and he spills it out on the western side, on the Yesod of the western side of the Mizbeach HaChitzon in the Azara. And it says in the Mishnah that in general, when you had blood by the Mizbeach HaChitzon that you had to spill out on the Yesod, it would be on the southern part of the Yesod, not the western part of the Yesod, but on Yom Kippur it's the western part. Elu ve'elu mesayvin ba'ama, and then whether blood is spilled on the western part of the Yesod or on the southern part of the Yesod, they all mix together ultimately in the Amma, in that stream that takes the blood out, the blood and whatever else needed to go out. We even saw that like the extra coals of, was it Dafka the Kohen Gadol? Right, that the extra coals would go into the Amma. Anything that had to go is like a disposal. V'yotzin l'Nachal Kidron, and then the blood goes out to Nachal Kidron. V'nimkarin l'Ganon l'Zabel Moal Boyen, and they are sold to the what's it called? Garden, people with their work their fields as fertilizer, Moal Boyen. And there's a din me'ila. You have to be careful with me'ila, but you could sell them and then you could use them. Very interesting. Hillel and I had a chat recently, and we were discussing the Amma and how it goes out to Nachal Kidron. Very interesting. That was an interesting discussion. Okay. Says the Gemara Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught v'yotzal mizbeach. Very, very interesting stuff. So it says by the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur that v'yotza la mizbeach, he goes out to the mizbeach, meaning he was already in the Kodesh HaKodashim, and of course he goes out from the Kodesh HaKodashim into the Heichal, and then he applies the blood to the Paroches in the Heichal, the curtain separating the Heichal and the Kodesh HaKodashim, and then it says that from there he goes out to the Mizbeach Hazav. Now the Mizbeach Hazav is in the Heichal, so what does it mean that he went out from sprinkling the blood on the Paroches to applying the blood to the Mizbach HaKtoris, to the Mizbach Hazav? So it means that, when he was applying the blood, sprinkling the blood in front of the Paroches, he was standing between the Mizbach Hazav and the Paroches, and from there he takes, he moves further outwards past the Mizbach Hazav, and then he applies the blood there. So Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught v'yotzal mizbeach, that he goes out to the Mizbach Hazav. Matamulomar, how come it says that? Amr ibn Nechemya, says Rabbi Nechemya. We don't see Rabbi Nechemya too often, but he's Gevaldig. We saw him in Masechta Shabbos, his name is Rabbi Noarai, which means light. That I think he was very light. Manhir eni chacham ba'alacha, I think. The Fishumatzinu, be'parabo al kol ha-mitzvahs, shekoin omir chutz la-mizbeach u'mazal proches b'shah shu-mazah. You hear that? That if a Kohen Gadol makes a mistake and he does an avera that generally you would have to bring a korban chatas for, if you did it b'shogeg, if you're the Kohen Gadol, you bring a special korban, right? That was the par Kohen Nasi? No, par Kohen HaMashiach. So over there also he sprinkles the blood in the direction of the Paroches. However, when the Kohen Gadol, when he brings the Par Kohen Mashiach for when he does a chatas, when he does a sin, if he does a sin, so when he sprinkles the blood towards the Paroches, he's actually not standing between the Mizbeach and the Paroches. He's actually standing beyond the Mizbeach and sprinkling the blood towards the Paroches. So Yochel Avzeken. So is it possible that also on Yom Kippur the Kohen Gadol stands past the Mizbeach when he's sprinkling the blood towards the Paroches? Tamulomer v'yotza el Mizbeach. Therefore, the pasuk says that no. after sprinkling blood on the paroches, then he went out to the Mizbeach. Heichen hoya, so where was he? Lifnim min ha-Mizbeach. It must mean that he was standing inner more from the Mizbeach, between the Mizbeach Hazav, and the paroches. He was standing. And then from there he goes out past the Mizbeach Hazav and applies the blood. Unlike the Par Kona Mashiach, where he applies the blood, he throws the blood towards the paroches from beyond the Mizbach Hazav. Tani Idach, we have another similar brisa in the opposite that says Lifnei Hashem, that it says that the Kohen Gadol applies the what does it say? It says that the Mizbeach is Lifnei Hashem. It says V'nosan HaKohen min Adam al Karnos Mizbach HaKtoris Asam Lifnei Hashem, that by the Par Kohen Mashiach, that he applies the blood on the corners of the Mizbach Ketoris Asam Lifnei Hashem, that the Mizbeach is before Hashem. So Matamlo Me'akum, it says Lifnei Hashem. Amar b'nechem l'fi shematzinu b'parvisah shom ha'kipurim shekohen omed lifnim min ha'mizbeach u'mazal ha'paroches. Well, because we see that by Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol stands between the Mizbeach Hazav and the paroches, and applies and throws the blood towards the paroches. B'shashu mazeh. Yochel avzekin, is it possible also by the Par Kohen Mashiach Tamudom Mizbach Ketores Asam Lifnei Hashem Asher Ba'omoid, that the Mizbeach of the Ketores that is before God in the Omoid Mizbeach Lifnei Hashem vein Kohen Lifnei Hashem. That the Mizbeach is before God, not the Kohen. Haketza, what does that mean? Omid chutz leMizbeach umazeh. It means that when he's sprinkling, that when he's throwing the blood towards the paroches, he's standing outside of the Mizbeach and throwing the blood towards the paroches, as opposed to on Yom Kippur, where he stands between the Mizbeach and the paroches when he applies the blood. Very interesting stuff. Hischil mechate v'yored v'chulei. Okay, then we say that he began to apply the blood to the corners of the Mizbeach. The Mishnah had said that he begins at the northeastern part of the Mizbach HaKatoris and then moves, around clockwise. Counterclockwise. To the northwest, southwest, and southeast, respectively. Tanan, Utakalun, and Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hischil Mechate V'yored, Mehechon Ayamaschil. So he began to apply the blood to the Mizbach Hazav. Where does he begin? Mikar Mizrachis Dromis. You hear that? Not like what we said in our Mishnah. That he begins with the southeast corner, Dromis Maravis, then the southwest corner, Maravis Tzfonis Mizrachis, then the northwest, followed by the northeast corner, Divir Rabbi Akiva. That's Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer says Rabbi Yossi Aglili, like our Mishnah, Mikar Mizrachis Tzfonis Maravis Dromis Mizrachis. The Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, like our Mishnah, that he begins with the northeast corner, then northwest, southwest, southeast. Malkum Rabbi Yossi Aglili Maschil, Shom Rabbi Akiva Posek, where Rabbi Yossi Aglili begins, i.e. the northeastern corner, that is where Rabbi Akiva ends. Malkum Rabbi Akiva Maschil, Shom Rabbi Yossi Aglili Posek, where Rabbi Akiva begins, i.e. the southeast corner, that is where Rabbi Yossi Aglili ends. Tuchuli Amamiyah, says the Gemara, but everyone seems to agree that the corner that he's arriving at first, he does not do. Meaning, so according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, does the Gemara say this or is just shot? I believe that this is just shot. That according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, he holds like Rabbi Yossi, which is that there was only one curtain separating between the Heichal and the Kodesh HaKodashim, and the opening towards the opening to the Kodesh HaKodashim was in the north, which means that according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, when he would leave the Kodesh HaKodashim, he was leaving in the north, which means that he would get to the Mizbeach HaKtoris, on the northern side of it. Whereas, according to Rabbi Akiva, he holds like the Chachamim, that there were two curtains, and the first curtain, the entrance was in the south, and then he would go up to the north, and then go into the Kodesh HaKodashim from there. But it means that when he left the Kodesh HaKodashim, so he would leave the Kodesh HaKodashim in the north, then zigzag his way down to the south, which is where he would re-enter into the Heichal, to the Azar. into the Heichel. So, according to Rabbi Akiva, he's going to reach the southern part of the Mizbach HaKtoros first. So again, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, he's going to be on the northern side of the Mizbach HaKtoros when he leaves the Kodesh HaKodashim, whereas according to Rabbi Akiva, he's going to be on the southern side. Now, both according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili and according to Rabbi Akiva, of course, he's going to hit the western side of the Mizbach HaKtoros, which is closer to the Kodesh HaKodashim, before he hits the eastern side of the Mizbach HaKtoros, which is further from the Kodesh HaKodashim. So the Gemara points out that both according to Rabbi Yossi and according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili and according to Rabbi Akiva, even though they argue about whether he's going to be on the northern side of the Mizbach HaKtoros or the southern side, but they both agree that you're not going to be applying the blood first to the western corners, even though that's the first corner that he will arrive at. My time, how come? So Shmuel points out, well, the pasuk says v'yatsa el mizbech. He has to go out. Adonafik mikula mizbech. He has to go past the entire mizbech, and therefore it's not enough that he simply arrives at the western side of the mizbech. He's got to keep going until he gets to the eastern side of the mizbech. So now, according to Rabbi Akiva, okay, granted he's coming in to the Heichel from the south, and granted that he's not going to start with the western side, so he's going to start with the southeastern side. But how come the next corner that he gets to is the southwestern side? Once already he starts, shouldn't he be going towards the right? So let's say that Taka, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Yossi Aglili argue about Rami Bar Yecheskel. The Rami Bar Yecheskel Yam She'asa Shlomo, that the Yam She'asa Shlomo, we learned about it for the first time, I think, at the beginning of Masechta Eruvin, that there was this big basin that Shlomo HaMelech made in the Beis HaMikdash that was on top of 12 golden cows. Or was it brass or copper cows? I think maybe copper the mice. Omer al Shnei Maser Bakar, it was on 12 of these cows. Shlosha Ponim Tzafona, 3 of them towards the north. Vishlosha Ponim Yoma, 3 of them facing east. Vishlosha Ponim Negba, Vishlosha Ponim Mizracha, 3 of them facing south, 3 of them facing east. So we go north, west, south, east, which is towards the right. Meaning you keep on walking towards the right. V'ayom aleim, and then this yam was on top of them. Milamaila achoreim baisa, v'chol achoreim baisa, and their backs were towards the house. Okay. So we see that just like the directions of the cows are listed counterclockwise, i.e. walking towards the right, circulating towards the right. So we learn from there that whenever you go around, you should go around towards the right. So therefore, let's say that Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who says that you go from northeast to northwest to southwest to southeast, i.e. counterclockwise, is like he holds like Rami Bar Yecheskel, that you always go right. Whereas Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold Rami Bar Yecheskel. That's why he says that you start in the bottom right, i.e. the southeast side, and then go left towards the southwest side. So, no, everybody agrees with Rami Bar Yecheskel. Rabbi Akiva also holds that in general you would go there, you would walk towards the right. This lemaise is machlokas between Rami Bar Yecheskel between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili. So one Mandamer says that, by the Mizbeach HaChitzon, so we say that you always walk around towards the right, that you go up the Kevesh, and then you turn right, and then you walk around always towards the right. But the question is that just because you do that in the Mizbeach HaChitzon, does that mean that that's necessarily what you have to do on the Mizbeach HaPnimi? That you have to go around towards the right on the inner Mizbeach? But still, Frekti Gemara, fine, so Rabbi Akiva doesn't learn out the inner Mizbeach from the outer Mizbeach. And even though by the outer Mizbeach you're always going to walk towards the right, by the inner Mizbeach you don't have to. But still, just because you don't have to walk towards the right, doesn't mean that you have to walk towards the left. Meaning Rabbi Akiva is pretty clear that you first apply to the southeastern corner and then the southwestern. I.e. it's pretty clear that you're going to be walking towards the left. But granted that Rabbi Akiva doesn't learn out the Mizbeach HaPnimi from the Mizbeach HaChitzon, but nonetheless, if he wants to go right, why shouldn't he be allowed to? Why does he davka have to go left? So Amalach Rabbi Akiva would respond to you, well, midina ba'u keren de paga beresha ba'u avid beresha. So says Rabbi Akiva, look, Meikar Adin, you should really be starting with the southwest corner, because that's the first one you're going to arrive at. You're coming out from the Kodesh HaKodashim, zigzag your way down to the southern part of the Azara, of the Heichal, and then you leave from there. Now you're in the rest of the Heichal in the south. When you get to the Mizbeach HaKtoris, the first corner you're going to hit is the southwest corner, which is closest to the Kodesh HaKodashim. And therefore really you should start with there, Damar Rish Lakish and Ma'avir Nala Mitzvahs, because of course Rish Lakish's opinion is that we don't pass over mitzvahs. So you should really start with the southwest corner. Ve'amai lo of it. How come you don't? Mishum dichsiv v'yatzal mizbeach. Hadonofik mikul mizbeach. Because after all, the pasuk says v'yatzal mechutz lamizbeach, that v'yatzal mizbeach, that it goes out to mizbeach, that you have to go out of the entire mizbeach, and therefore you got to walk to the eastern side of the mizbeach. And the pasuk says, look, we do want you in this case to walk past the southwestern corner towards the southeastern corner, even though you're going to arrive at the southwestern first. And then says Rabbi Akiva, look, okay, so fine. So the pasuk says that we want you to apply the blood first in the southeastern corner. But once you've applied the blood in the southeastern corner, so the next one, though, should nonetheless be the southwestern corner, which Meikar Adin really should have been the first one to begin with, but for whatever reason the pasuk says start with the southeastern corner, so we do that first, but after that go back and do the southwestern, not the southeastern. No, not the northeastern. Well, that was Daf Nun Ches of Masechta Yoma. What do you guys think? So we discussed mixing the blood of the goat and of the cow together. We saw machlokas there between Rabbi Yoshia and Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yoshia says that you mamish mix them together before applying them to the Mizbeach Pnimi, to the Mizbeach HaKtoris, and Rabbi Yonasan says that you apply them separately. Okay? We had the Shailev, can you put a vessel inside of another vessel? Would that be a chatzitza? I think we kind of said no. Alright. Well, again, not for me. I'm not a Kohen. We got to a new Mishnah which talks about applying the blood to the Mizbeach HaPnimi, to the inner Mizbeach in the Heichal, after you already sprinkled the blood in the Kodesh HaKodashim and the Paroches. You then apply it to the Mizbeach. So first we had an interesting shaila about, so when it comes to the Parkon and Mashiach, so he throws the blood towards the Paroches from beyond the Mizbeach HaPnimi, whereas on Yom Kippur he's actually between the Mizbeach HaPnimi and the Paroches. And then we had a machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili about what's the order of the corners. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, like our Mishnah, which is that he begins with the northeastern corner, then northwest, then southwest, then southeast. Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that you begin with southeast, then southwest, then northwest, then northeast. Chevre, that was Daf Nun Ches of Masechta Yoma. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Have a great day. Cheers.